Steve Clarke has resigned as Scotland manager, and I think it's the right thing to do, despite that 4 year contract that he signed a month before heading to the World Cup. I think Steve Clarke has looked at it and thought, I haven't managed to get the country into the next phase of the World Cup tournament, and that would have been a history making move for Scotland to get to the next phase. They haven't managed it in any tournament they've been present at, and Steve Clarke probably looked at the wreckage of the 3 games at the World Cup and thought, well, for 7 years in charge, I've taken it as far as I possibly could, and it's time for someone else to come in. Who that man will be, I genuinely do not have a name that I think is capable of coming in with the lack of quality we have and getting a different outcome and getting us to a knockout phase. I'm there to be proved wrong. I'm there to listen to the SFA and anyone else who comes up with a name that they think can get a different outcome. All I would say is that Steve Clarke deserves tremendous credit for his time in charge over that 7 years. When you look at his record, he's had 81 games, he's had 36 wins, 29 defeats, 16 draws, and he's managed to get us to 3 major tournaments. That was the remit for the manager. Get us to a tournament, get us to a European Championships and a World Cup. And he achieved that. And he had many highs along the way where I think a number of Scottish fans in the Tartan Army will look back with great pride and enjoyment at how we managed to get through semi-final against Israel in a penalty shootout, Serbia getting us to Euro 2020. It was disappointing in the end of performance at that tournament, didn't progress. But then again, can we get to a World Cup? We failed against Ukraine, and that was a huge disappointment. But can we get to Euro 2024? And the answer was emphatically yes. He managed that. He also managed to defeat Spain 2-0 at Hampden Park. What a night that was. Another high for Scotland fans to witness with Steve Clarke and the players that he had at his disposal. And then, who can forget Denmark on a night where Scotland had to win? They topped the group against all odds. And remember, we were a pot 4 country at one point, and he managed to top the group, defeat Denmark, get us to a major tournament in the World Cup. And sadly for Scotland, the fans were superb. They were absolutely world class, but our team sadly were not. And the manager was killed by his own players. They absolutely killed him in the big games. Could he have been more adventurous? The answer is emphatically yes. His tactics at times were open to criticism, and Steve Clarke is big enough and man enough to take the criticism. In Euro 2020, in Euro 2024 and the World Cup in 2026, he was a cautious manager, reactive rather than proactive. Was it down to the players he has at his disposal? Because we waited 28 years to qualify for a World Cup, and in that time quite a good number of experienced and quality managers couldn't get us there. And the reason for that is quite simply because we didn't have top drawer defenders, and we certainly didn't have top drawer strikers. But Steve Clarke managed to get the best out of players, to get them organised enough to get us qualifying for major tournaments, and he deserves tremendous praise for that. But at the major tournaments, 1 win in 9 is quite simply not good enough, and at times his tactics were found wanting. And I thought, especially at this World Cup, we should have been on the front foot. We should have been looking to score more goals against Haiti. We weren't able to do that. We got a deflected goal from John McGinn, and that was all really that the Tartan Army had to celebrate, despite winning friends and influencing so many people about the joys of being a member of the Tartan Army. No trouble, and just there to enjoy the moment. Sadly, inside the stadium, they weren't able to enjoy the moments that we were craving because we weren't good enough, and the manager was killed by some of his players. And you have to look at Grant Hanley against Morocco. Absolutely woeful defending to allow them in after 70 seconds. You have to look once again, Scott McKenna against Brazil kills the manager's game plan. Jack Henry was lucky to get away with one. Andy Robertson passing the ball inside the penalty box. Angus Gunn's poor goalkeeping, and Vinicius Jr. heads the ball into the net. And then from there, Brazil had a third. We had one half decent 45 minutes against Brazil where we're trying to get back into the game, but by then Scotland had been killed by their own poor defending, and there was no way back for us. And then it was that wait to see if some other country was going to do us a favour. Did we deserve to get into the next phase of this competition with only 1 win and 1 goal? The answer is emphatically no, we didn't. And Steve Clarke, despite signing that 4-year deal a month ago before this tournament started, whether that was right or not is open to debate as well. He did the honourable thing and he decided, I've had 7 years in charge. Enough is enough. It's time for someone else to take over the reins. Who that man is, I do not know. Steve Clarke, 1 win in 9 is not good enough at major tournaments. He's open to criticism. But for the 7 years and getting to 3 major tournaments, I think we should say thank you to the Scotland manager. A thoroughly decent man and a man that had Scotland at his heart. He wanted us to do well. He was just let down by big players. I don't think McTominay, I don't think McGinn, I don't think Robertson, I don't think Shanklin turned up when we needed them to. There are other players that will have to take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror. There are some players that will not be part of the Scotland setup when the new man comes in. Steve Clarke should be celebrated for giving us some wonderful moments to get to the tournaments, but he's open to criticism for what we witnessed at the major tournaments. Other than that, you can look back over the wreckage. There are many highs and games that we loved, but there are many disappointments at the major tournaments and what should have happened and didn't happen. So, it's over. The Steve Clarke reign as Scotland manager is over and it's now time for the new man. All I would say to you is Steve Clarke's gone, but the new man has the same problems. We have major problems in Scottish football, not only domestically, but at international level, producing the quality and playing the football we want to see. We're not going to play tiki-taka football, but maybe with a different manager, we can get maybe a little bit more if we reach a major tournament. Maybe a different style, I don't know. But what I would say is, you can't domestically play in a 12-team league and have 8 of the managers looking at our game and saying we just want to stay in the league before a ball is kicked. That's negative football. And we also can't be signing inferior players and not giving Scottish players a chance to play domestically. Yes, we know that England and Europe is cherry picking some of our better Scotland players, but we need to produce more. We need to look at grassroots. We need some managers in Scotland to take responsibility and play more Scottish players. And we need to change the structure of our league to give the Scotland manager a chance to have a bigger pool of Scotland players that he can call on to play at international level. And the only way he can do that is if players are playing regularly at domestic level and becoming better players. That's the way we have to change. We have to take a long, hard look at our game and change it structurally at domestic level to get more Scotland players, to get more players playing football and becoming better players. But the big question right now is who's going to take us forward to try and get us qualification to the Euros in 2028. That's the big question. But all I would say to Steve Clarke is thank you for the highs of getting us there. I know he'll be big enough and man enough to take the criticism for the performances at the major tournaments. But for 7 years, I think he had Scotland at his heart. He wanted to do so well. He was let down by a number of players, and he may well have to take the criticism for the way the team went about their business at those major tournaments. But some people are going to have to do a lot of soul searching. But for now, Steve Clarke is gone, and it's all about the next man in.